Welcome back to the Wednesday night live edition of the Contrast Project Lounge podcast. In this episode, we're going to talk about something the timeline can't fake: human storytelling that breathes. You've seen the glossy, overproduced stuff, polished, empty calories. What we're chasing tonight is the opposite: work that lives in the close-up, in the hesitation before the line lands, in the sound that tells the truth when the picture wants to lie. Our guest is the force behind Lula Films, Michelle Calloway. Her short film, Tallulah Park, is pulling 3 nominations in the Independent Shorts Awards and screens in Los Angeles on September the 5th. Now, that's not hype. That's craft getting recognized in the wild. Michelle's background is brand and creative direction, and that's part of why I wanted her here. When you've spent years distilling ideas down to the signal, you don't waste frames. You choose lenses from what they do to a heartbeat. You shape light to serve the scene, not the ego. You build performances that don't wink at the audience. Intimacy over spectacle every time. Here's how we'll run it. Okay, we'll break down the directing choices that give small film real gravity. Blocking the eye lines, sound carries the story. We'll talk to the indie realities, funding without selling the soul, strategy that actually moves the ball, and finding an audience that cares. Links are going to be in the comments. Stick around. All right, enough of that. Tallulah Park is the calling card. The craft is the message. Michelle Calloway is in the green room right now. Let's bring her in.
Hi. Thanks for having me, you guys. I'm happy to be here. I'm doing good.
Good to have you. You got to tell us about a little bit about Tallulah Park. Tallulah Park. That's your second one, right?
Yeah, so that's my second short film. When did we shoot Tallulah Park? I guess 2024. We shot Tallulah Park here in Jacksonville, Florida. I wrote the film, produced the film, and I play our lead character in the project. We used all local cast and crew. I actually received a grant from the City of Jacksonville and the Cultural Council for that project.
Oh, really?
So the individual artist grant that they launched 8 months ago, perhaps. I was a recipient of one of those grants, and so that helped with the funding and production of the project, and then all of the festival submissions and all of the festival helped with cover some of those costs for post-production.
It's not an easy grant to get.
No, there were 60 artists that were chosen, and I luckily was one of them. So we're just wrapping up that grant season in the next month or so.
Yeah.
So I just completed spending the rest of the money to get me to, like Tracy mentioned, we have Tallulah Park screening at the Independent Short Awards, where we were chosen from over 3,000 films from 70 different countries. And we are up for 3 awards: Best Drama Short, Best Actress, and Best Supporting Actor. So my team and I will be headed out there in a couple weeks.
Oh, so they're paying for everybody to get out there.
Just me,
awesome.
But they're coming as well.
Okay.
Yes, not yet, but yes, nominated. I am nominated. I like it. There's a little bit of separation that I have with all of that, but it feels good. But it's not why I do it. I do it for different reasons, but the awards are always the cherry on top.
Well, even being nominated is great.
Yeah.
When I had my post-production house up in Atlanta, it was called No Bone Studios, we got nominated for an Emmy.
Yeah,
and it doesn't hurt to lose, because it's like, hey, you got nominated, but sometimes it's like who you lose to that makes you feel bad. Mm-hmm. We lost to Lou Reed, so I was like, oh.
At least you were in the same category as Lou Reed.
Well, Anyway, so that's great. What's the film about?
So I would say it's under the category of drama, and that's usually what I make films about. It's usually something I'm going through at that time, and it's always about healing or some trauma or some growth process that I'm trying to navigate, and I use the work to sort of funnel that or channel that through.
Write what you know.
Write what you know. So the story is really about a woman on a journey, and it's about the characters that she encounters along the way. And a lot of times unexpected characters will kind of drive us in different directions that maybe we weren't prepared for, and open our eyes in new ways. And so my character meets one of those along the way, and he kind of steers her in a new direction and off a path that she thought she was going to take. and she took the other path, and she got rewarded at the end. So it's a happy.
Oh man, you gave away the ending.
It's a happy story.
Not a tragedy,
it's
right?
A positive, yeah, it's a positive story. I there's always heavy themes in my work.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like life, there's a lot of heavy themes that I explore. But I would say Tallulah Park, in my opinion, is more, it's hard to explain because it is a narrative. There is a beginning, middle, end, act 1, act 2, act 3. But the way that I wrote it, it much more reads like a poem or a song in the way that I put together the dialogue and just sort of the tone of the film. It feels kind of ethereal a little bit. It's like up here a little bit. It's not quite down here. You can kind of sense that there's a little bit of uneasiness to the tone of the film. And then music is a really heavy theme in the film as well.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. I sourced all of the music for the film. I used a couple different artists. There's one from Jacksonville, Madison Hughes, who was actually on The Voice, and she's now living in Nashville. But Madison is from Jacksonville, so I reach out to her, and I have 3 of her songs, I believe, in the film, and then I have 2 covers that I actually hired an artist, Rick Nesmith, here in Jacksonville to re-record the guitar solo, and then at the end I actually had him do the guitar with the vocals as well. So I have 2 different songs that I had him re-record for the project. A Blood, Sweat, and Tears song.
Yay.
Yeah, a Blood, Sweat, and Tears song.
Which one?
Okay, I have our playlist. I could put it in the chat from our film. I put together our whole I have our soundtrack. So it's And When I Die by Blood, Sweat, and Tears is our ending song.
When I die and when I'm gone.
And then, sorry, that's our opening song. My apologies. Yeah. That's our opener. And then Wanna Be Loved by the Red Clay Strays is our ending song. And that's the song that he does vocals on. So
that's awesome.
It was really cool to be in the studio. I have never been in a music studio before and actually helped produce a song. And so it was really fun to work with the artist and work with the producer and kind of give feedback on the feeling and emotion and the tonality that I wanted to hear while we were kind of in the recording session, and to kind of help navigate that as sort of a director was kind of fun. I mean, I didn't direct Tallulah Park, but I mean, I felt like that experience was kind of me directing how I wanted to hear it, the music, and where, because I knew in the movie where it was going to be placed. So I could kind of sense okay, this is what we need the audience to feel.
So it's more like the music is a motive for certain scenes.
Yes, absolutely. Music is a character in the film.
Good call.
I love it. Well, that's my team. I had an amazing team, and I started with a clear vision. So a lot of times I will put together a creative kind of pitch deck before I reach out to a team. So it's sort of the visuals of the film, the tone of the film, even the color palette of the film. Obviously, my background's in photography. I don't know if the audience knows that, but my background is in photography, so I think very visually. Mm-hmm. So I do try to put together a clear vision ahead of time. And then when I put together my team, which my team's amazing, I've worked with David Borges, who is an amazing director. I've worked with him many times, and Carlos Perez, who's our cinematographer. And I kind of work with them on repeat, and I knew that they would be able to take this film and kind of bring it to life. And we just had a lot of creative meetings ahead of time about the look and feel of the film. But there is something to kind of doing it at the time that it needed to happen. And so I didn't quite feel ready for the film, but David, the director, was like, no, we need to do this now. And it was really kind of him pushing me to say, the time is now, so let's just go for it. And so I financed the film at the front end of it, and we kind of just did it very bare bones. There was no crowdfunding or anything like that. Mm-hmm. The grant from the city of Jacksonville came later, and that was a reimbursement grant that kind of helped reimburse some of those expenses. But I just made it happen and said, okay, what do we need? What kind of budget can we do this thing for? And get it done in the timeline that we need to, and make it look as expensive as we can for as little as we can. And that's what those two are amazing at doing. They're really, really amazing at doing that. That's why I trust them. I trust them, with my heart, because I knew that they could take what I had and make it look incredible. So it's really about your team.
Sure is. When we did the television show, it was all about making it look expensive.
Yeah.
But it was totally,
Yeah. It doesn't have to be expensive. And because I feel like I'm so well connected in our community, people really wanted to help. And so when I reached out through social media, hey guys, I need 100 empty liquor bottles because we have to fill a bar scene. And sure enough, Josephine's in Avondale was like, hey, come pick up all the empties from the end of the night. And it was things like that, people that just came through and help you with all those little things. Hey, I'm looking for this kind of location. Can somebody point me in the right direction?
Right.
Hey, my character drives a pickup truck. Who has one? My friend Mark reaches out and says, hey, you can borrow my truck. Things like that. It's your community. People want to help, is what I learned.
They do.
Yeah.
Well, this is a great community. We talked about this a few times, Tracy, on the show, is that,
right.
And a lot of artists that we talk to, is that we have a very collaborative community, and they always want to help, and we have just some excellent artists and musicians and writers and actors and actresses around. Directors, whatever. It's just an amazing place to be right now. So I love working here.
Yeah, yes, I know if
agree.
If you ever pay attention, to the Jacks, the film festival that we had, that we just had just recently, was the last one. I mean, it's just, if you go to their screenings, I went to one a few years back, and they had it was at the main library downtown, where they had all the the teams and everything gathered for the screenings and the award ceremony and all that stuff. Gosh, the place was packed. There were, and it was mostly people that were involved with the making of those films, and there was just hundreds and hundreds of people.
Correct. Yeah, the film community, the independent film community in Jacksonville is very robust. I agree.
Sure. What is
one of the things? I think that when I first
go ahead.
First met you, it was a Space 42. Correct. And back then you were just focusing on photography. So how did you go from taking stills to 24 stills a second for this big screen?
I've told this story a couple of times. I've actually started in film I personally didn't start in film, but when I was 18 and I was in college, I went to school for photography. I went to Columbia College, Chicago. And so I was at a film school. I mean, they're very well known for their film program. And so I ended up on set with a lot of my friends who were film majors, and I kind of learned the ins and outs of the different roles. And I ended up being a still photographer on a lot of their film sets when I was young. And so when I moved to LA, I would say, like, my break on a low budget movie that was made in Iowa when I was 21, maybe 22, and they were looking for a still photographer, and I actually had a portfolio because of the work I'd done in school for my friends' movies. And the production company was from LA, and this was a movie that Brittany Murphy was in, like, right before she died. So there was some names on there, but it was a lower budget movie, and they were shooting in Iowa because of the tax incentive. So I moved to LA to work for this production company and as a still photographer, but I had been on sets forever. You know what I mean? Like for a good, 10 years, I had experience working. So by the time I made the transition, it was a world that I was incredibly familiar with. It just wasn't a world where I was cast, not crew. And so that transition came in about 2020 when I decided to do kind of a fear exercise as an artist. And I was like, okay, well, what scares me the most out of anything? And it was being seen. It was being perceived. And so there was like a block there that I could understand. And I thought, well, how do I kind of mitigate this feeling? And I thought, well, I guess taking an acting class is kind of the most obvious way to do it. And I did it kicking and screaming. And it was really, really, really hard. And it wasn't something I enjoyed. I felt really uncomfortable. I was shy. I was reserved. I was all the things. And then I took a few more classes because there was a little bit more curiosity that started to build up. Like, okay, what is this about? Like, why is this the thing? And then around the same time, I wrote my first short, Belle Isle, when I was going through therapy. And my therapist actually said, hey, you may want to use writing as a way to sort of like move some of this work. And I had done a lot of writing in high school. I was in, AP Lit, AP Comp. I was kind of really in that world, but I never really thought of myself as a writer or a good writer. But I saw the movie in my head and I just wrote it. And so that's kind of how that first movie came to be. And then I knew how to make it because I had been on set.
So what do you like better, being on camera or behind the camera?
So I love channeling a character. I love being on. It's hard for me to be on camera. Like, it's not something that I'm not an innate performer. I'm not somebody who says, let me go get on stage because that gives me life. I love film because it's very intimate and it works well for my introvertedness.
Yeah.
And I can still shine on camera because the film is so nuanced because it picks up everything. Where on stage, you have to be big. Right. So the audience can see you. So to me, film was like a perfect medium because I could tell a story with the way that I moved my eyes or the way that I looked at somebody. So I didn't have to be like big in order to express what I was trying to tell. So yes.
Well, it's a very subtle craft.
Yeah, the camera sees everything, and I think that's why I like it, where they say the camera can see into your soul, and it can, because it really is seeing all of you in that moment. And it's like causing the audience to focus on what, that cinematographer or director wants you to see.
So when you were writing the film, you drew on personal experiences or experiences of friends or, I mean, like when I write, there's always something buried in there. It's not very obvious.
Yeah, it's
from my life, but just because I know.
It's usually a version of me that I'm exploring. So like my first short was really a version of me if I never would have left my hometown. Like I kind of imagined who I would be if I hadn't grown, if I hadn't left home, if I hadn't done work, if I hadn't pushed myself, if I hadn't moved to these new cities, like what would that version of me be? So that was Belle Isle in my opinion. That was sort of that character. The character of Olivia was much more the character of myself a few years ago. Like at that moment, there was this needing to kind of leave and explore and grow and feeling stuck where you are. Yeah. So that was that character. And it's funny because I get to the end of these movies and I'm not that woman anymore. And then I'm forced to sort of like go back and talk about her. And I'm like, oh, that was like, I'm not her anymore, but I was at the moment that I wrote that.
Right.
Yeah, did you ever like get that? You ever get that point in your life and you're kind of like reminiscing about something, or Facebook throws up memories from 2001 or something, and you go,
yes,
who in the hell was that?
Yeah, it's like not me anymore, and but I'm having to talk about it in a very eloquent and mature way to sort of, bring context to the choices that I made or the story I'm telling.
It's kind of therapeutic, maybe?
Oh, it's everything I do is therapeutic. And I think that's the joy of art. I think art is a way to channel.
Yeah.
And channel what you're experiencing, channel from other places. I think sometimes ideas are channeled. I think songwriters, like Tom Waits talks about that a lot. About just like, the song hits you and you've got to stop where you are. And it's like, God, hold on, I'm driving. Like, I don't have pen and paper.
We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. About like, because Chris Martin from Coldplay totally attests to that. He never says he writes a song. He says, when I receive a song,
they're channeled.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the way I work as well. I just, when it hits you, it hits you. You just can't sit there and go, I'm going to write a hit today, or I'm going to write a new play that everybody's going to love. It's just when it happens, when you receive it.
Yeah, you just do it for yourself first.
Sure.
I'm a huge fan of Rick Rubin, who always talks about, you're making it for yourself. You can never make it for the audience first. It loses its magic, its luster, its authenticity.
Sure.
It's like you've got to make that thing first, and then the audience will find you.
Yeah. Talking about using your Go ahead, Trace.
Yeah, I was going to say, you mentioned that while in therapy, you know, your therapist had suggested, to write. And I will say, that most of the therapists that I know personally, having gone through therapy years and years ago myself, and knowing some actual practitioners, that one of the things on the top of their list is suggesting to their clients, their patients, journaling. Write your feelings. Write out your feelings.
It's a good way to process. I start every morning with that before I actually write. I write first for myself, and it clears a channel. It's like morning pages from The Artist's Way.
Yeah.
It's kind of
you too, huh? I got all three
to that. Yeah, so it's kind of like morning pages. It helps clear the cobwebs and the clutter, and then it kind of opens that channel up. So when then you do get to work, you've got a clearer mind.
Yeah, that was an amazing series of books.
Yeah,
I like the water one the best because I'm a water person, but it was
of course.
Yeah, of course, right. So, all right, so we talked a little bit about this before we went on the air, but you had posted something the other day, and it was rather personal, but I thought it was a great story and something that people might learn from and might want to hear. So I'm just going to kick it off that way.
Yeah.
I'm not putting words in your mouth. So
No.
You want to tell us about it?
Yeah, so there was an opportunity to audition for a film that was shooting in Canada it was for The Smashing Machine, which is a story that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's in, and it's about a famous wrestler. And they had a small part that they were casting for one of the other characters' wives. And they were looking for a woman in her 30s, Caucasian, Midwestern. So it was like, perfect, because I'm originally from Iowa. And I saw the casting online, and I went to like audition for it, looked at kind of the audition process. And this is a very untraditional casting director. That's why I love her, and I follow her online, because sometimes she'll post these sort of open calls, which doesn't really happen without an agent. Like, you need an agent to be able to usually get these kinds of auditions. And this was an open call. And so I thought, I literally have nothing to lose.
Sure.
And usually when you do auditions, they're asking you to read dialogue or to do a scene. But she always just asks you questions. And so she asked a couple of questions. And one of them was, when was the last time you felt happy? And the second one was, tell me about the last dream that you had. And that was the audition. And so I did that audition probably early last year, and I had just noticed that A24 just posted the trailer for The Smashing Machine. And I thought, ouch. Oh my God, that's crazy. Like, fuck, I auditioned for that movie. That's kind of insane to see this movie coming out and going, whoa, it was kind of like an out-of-body experience.
Sure.
So I decided to share the trailer on my story, my Instagram story, and I kind of wrote a little blurb about the experience and how I started crying during the audition, and I wasn't expecting to cry, and just the fact that I didn't get it did not matter to me whatsoever. It was just the experience of being able to do it. And then I went back into my archives and found the audition, and I posted part of it, and it was the part where I was asked, when was the last time that you were happy? And I got on camera and I just started talking about my son and how we have these this moment where I had picked him up from school recently, and he had asked me to play soccer with him, and just like the joy it brought to his face. And then he wanted to get dim sum and boba. And I said it was these little moments, and I started crying. And it was because, I was freshly out of a divorce and navigating single parenthood. So every wound was so fresh at that moment, and I was grasping for happiness because my world had been turned upside down. And I realized in that audition that happiness was actually these tiny moments. It's not these big grandiose experiences. It was like my son just saying, hey mom, do you want to go play soccer at the park and have a meal together? And so I shared that clip on Instagram, where a year ago I could have never done that, being that vulnerable and sharing my life with almost 10,000, I think I'm at like 8,000 something followers on Instagram, which is not a lot, but to me it's a lot because I'm like 1,000 people might see me sobbing in this audition. And I did it anyway. I did it scared. And I had the greatest, people DM'd me and people sent me messages and people, I always tell people, don't follow me if you don't want authenticity, because that's all I know how to do. So if you're looking for, a curated life that is perfect, I'm not it. Follow someone else.
Go over to OnlyFans.
What?
Yeah, go to OF.
Yeah.
Those girls are over there making a lot more money than
Yeah, that's where your trolls are at.
Where did you get the courage from? What gave you that? What was the switch that gave you that?
I think I'm at a really interesting transitional point in my life. I had a really poignant conversation recently with a business coach, a business life coach that I started working with. And we had just kind of had this intensive mapping out of where I am, where I'm going, and where I'd been. And so I was kind of thinking in these really broad terms. And she said, do you want more of this? And I said, yes, I want to do more acting. I want to continue filmmaking. I have this other career too that helps afford my life and take care of my son. But yeah, I do want more of that. And so I think that was kind of fresh in my brain. And so when that audition came up, I was like, you know what? Damn it. I'm going to be proud of myself that I did that and I had that experience. Because she was kind of shining a light on me and saying like, hey, you should be really proud of what you've been able to accomplish in 5 years. She goes, are you booking? And I said, yes. And she's like, do you have agents? And I said, yes. And she's like, you've made 2 films and you're writing a feature. I said, yes. She's like, you've navigated divorce, single parenthood, starting your life over, building a business. Yes. Take a moment and feel that. And I was like, oh, shit, you're right. I need to feel the weight of that. And so I think it was just me being in a place of feeling grateful and empowered to share the vulnerable parts, because I don't ever want people to think that I'm just strong. And I have people reflect that to me a lot, where they're like, oh, you just seem like this really strong, independent woman. I'm like, behind every strong, independent woman is a woman who has suffered greatly and been through a lot.
Well, that's kind of what the social media brings to us, is those curated lives.
Yeah.
And it's just not real life, It's
not. I think that was what I was trying to do. I had a friend a couple of days ago say that to me, of like, oh, I just like, you seem so strong. Like that's the feeling that you give off. And I think in order to sort of kind of say, fuck that, let me show you, like, let me reveal truth, is why I did it. Yeah, I was like, I will be vulnerable enough to let people see me cry.
Yeah, like Jim was saying. I think Jim, you told me, you said something about, hey, give me stronger shoulders.
But it's like sometimes, like what you were talking about like going back and saying, well, you've accomplished this, you've accomplished that, and pausing. I'm really bad at that. I just like once I'm done with the project, I forget it and I just keep going.
That's what I do.
And isn't that crazy? And then you kind of like, man, it's not all that good. I just can't, and the confidence thing and all that stuff that gets wrapped around that. And I have to consciously like wake up in the morning and sit with a cup of coffee and with my dogs and just kind of like reflect, and I don't do it much. I need to do it more, because if you just keep on going, you're really trying to hide something.
Yeah, you are. It's anxiety usually. I tell people that now. I said that's what therapy helped with, because that was anxiety kind of running the show. And now I don't let anxiety run the show. I'm not trying to prove anything, or if I get X, then I will feel X. I don't do that anymore. It's purely because I want to do it, not because I think it will make me feel a certain way. Mm-hmm. But the mantra for this week has been slow is fast and fast is slow.
That's so true. That's a great mantra to have. It is.
That's the one I've been working on. So learning that I have built a foundation really over the last, I would say the better part of 3 years has really been the majority of this work that I've been doing, this sort of navigating in a new way. But I have felt like I've been going slow, but I've actually built a foundation of longevity.
So with everything that you've learned, especially recently in the last couple of years, what's up next? And how fast you're going to get to it.
Okay,
yeah, exactly.
I have really good news.
Okay.
I have no one knows this. This is like an exclusive. Are you guys ready?
Breaking news.
Well, this is
breaking news.
This is version 1, but I finished my first feature-length screenplay today. Version 1. She got to the end. About 2 hours before this call, I was sitting in the parking lot of the soccer field where my son was practicing.
Awesome.
Finishing the last scene, and I got to the end, fade to black. So I have completed my first feature-length screenplay. Not done, but version 1 has been completed. Now it's on rewrites.
We got it. We're not going to jinx it.
But
it is version 1.
That is an undertaking that I never knew I could complete, and that talk about like getting over a hurdle. I mean, I'd never written more than 15 pages in my entire life, let alone 100+ pages of a whole movie. You know, I'd only been thinking in these bite-sized pieces of 12-minute short films.
Well, congratulations, and I appreciate.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Delivering that breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news. So that'll be the next. That'll be the next baby. That's a pretty big undertaking, but I think that's the next kind of direction that I'll be headed, is focused on that, and producing that project underneath my production company, but obviously having to work with other producers and financiers because movies are expensive. And so I think it'll be a really cool experience to be able to reconnect with a lot of the people in my circle and my time in LA. And I have family members who work in film. And so to be able to kind of expand that outward versus just focusing on these little micro projects, I'm stretching myself. This'll be a big shift.
When you have more news
to
tell us, just let us know and we'll have you back on.
I will definitely, I will definitely keep you guys posted on that. But that's the next turn, right? Like shorts, there's no real ROI on a short film, but obviously a feature film is a different beast altogether. There's more money at stake, but there's more money to be earned. And so it's kind of a shift to say, hey, I trust my vision enough to finish this thing and then to start putting it out there in the world and getting feedback and connecting with people that could help make it a reality.
Maybe we can see this upcoming project at one of the bigger film festivals. Maybe we can see it at Cannes.
That's my goal. I talked to my business coach about it, and she's like, which festival do you want this at? I was like, I can pick any festival. She said, this is your dream. You can do whatever you want.
Pick one.
So I said, Sundance, of course.
Well, yeah.
I'm looking forward to that A24 trailer.
Oh, yeah. The A20, maybe A24 wants to produce it. I don't think it's an A24 film. They're cool, but I don't know if this is the right project for A24, but it could be. But
it'll end up where it's supposed to.
They make the coolest in indie, even though they're not indie. Their movies feel indie, but they have real budgeting behind them.
Sure.
Maybe you'll get that.
I'm hoping. I'm gonna shoot for the stars. You got to shoot high.
You do.
And end up somewhere.
On the moon, as they say.
And I was just going to ask, when you talk about it, you say that the feature films, of course, there's, money concerns, but, balancing that is really something else. And you mentioned you have a good team and, agents and people that work with you, balancing the artistry part of it and the entrepreneurship, of it. How do you go about balancing that in your head? Do you pass the ball off to someone else to, you handle all the business and I'll do this?
I think because I have always been a collaborative artist and I've always worked with teams, I believe you're only as good as the team around you. And so I know my strengths by now. I've been around the industry long enough to kind of understand, okay, this is what I'm really good at and this is what I'm not good at. And so to be able to pull those people in to kind of help supplement those other areas. But I always think in business terms. I used to not do that. I used to very much be that starving artist that just really didn't understand how to monetize her work properly. But that was all an internal problem. That had nothing to do with my talent, and it had nothing to do with where I lived or what. It was all my own limiting beliefs and fear around feeling confident enough to charge what I needed to charge, or to be able to look at the art through the lens of, hey, how can I monetize this in a way that helps me survive? But I do think, I just want to preface that if there's any artists listening, because I do think sometimes it's okay to have a different job that pays for your life while the art can still sort of percolate without pressure. Where if you're trying to put pressure on art sometimes to make money, it can kind of kill the artist because it's too much to kind of do simultaneously. But I have found a really great balance between the two. And I think about everything now through a strategic business lens, even though it looks like on the outside, oh, I'm just making these, poetic shorts because it's fun and frivolous and I have money to blow. It's really not that. I actually see them as building one onto the next. And they're all proof of concepts for this larger project. So if anyone wants to know what I'm capable of, they can see these other projects that I've done, financed, shot, completed, put through festival circuit. So it's easier for somebody to trust me and trust my work because I've built a portfolio, essentially, and they've all kind of led to the next thing. So I really am a firm believer in everything that you do should lead to the next. And even if you're not making money, you will. It's just sometimes it just takes time.
I remember Todd Rundgren had an album that kind of defined that whole thing that you said at the name of it was called The Tortured Artist Effect.
Yeah, it's a real thing. And I lived that life for a really long time. And I look back and go, it wasn't for lack of talent. It was just pure insecurity and not understanding my own value and my own worth. And that's something that has to be done from the inside out, not the outside in. That's the Artist Way is a great book if people want to work on that. She will walk you through it. If you guys have read, I know you said, Jim, that you like that book, but it's really about that very thing. And then I've always thought like a business owner, because I've been an entrepreneur pretty much my entire life. And so when I switched to film's a business. Sure. I just look at it as a business.
Especially now that you got a feature screenplay.
Exactly. And you have to see the value in what you provide. And we won't, I could say, oh God, I've never written anything, more than 12 pages. What do I know? I'm just this little, girl that lives in Jacksonville and she's just making her little, fuck that shit. You've seen movies be made from the most obscure places, and we can't make movies if we don't have screenplays. And we need original stories. And who's to say that my original story isn't any good? I don't know, right? But I was called to write it. And so the job of the artist, if we're talking about channeling and listening to the voice, is to do the thing that you're being asked to do. And so I was asked to do this project from the art gods, whoever we want to, give it to.
You received it.
I received it, and I completed it in about 4 months, which
that's great. That's astounding.
It's actually insane. So that's when I knew this is from somewhere else. This project just needed to come through me, and I just needed to complete it.
And then you pay it forward and collaborate with the community around it.
Absolutely. I mean, the story is about this community. It sets place in Jacksonville. The landscape is Jacksonville, very similar to Tallulah Park. So Tallulah Park to me is very much a proof of concept, even though the storylines are different. But it's very much the same tone of the feature screenplay. And so I can see where I use place a lot in my work. So I'm not from Jacksonville. I was not born here. I am not, I do not have family here. but I wrote a screenplay about this place because it was what was in front of me. And I found the story that I needed to tell.
Can't wait to hear
I know.
hear about it.
I'm excited.
Can't give away. You don't want to give away.
I got to the end today. I just am like, should I celebrate? Like, should I be popping a bottle of champagne? Like, what?
You should.
I know. I'm thinking, like, I'm too chill. Like, I should be more excited for this moment. Like, I completed something, and, you know, people start screenplays and they never finish them, or it takes them 10 years to finish.
Right. That sounds like me.
A project.
Cheers.
Yeah. And you
cheers to you.
And you pulled it off in 4 months.
I did. I really started writing in May after a festival that I attended in April. And that was really, Tallulah Park was in a festival in Iowa called the Julian Dubuque International Film Festival. And I really started to outline the film when I was home because it was with family. They showed up and my entire family came to the festival, which was very cool because they have never been able to see my work. And I sat down with my brothers and they kind of helped me outline it, and they were really instrumental in that process, and then I just kind of got to work.
Nice. So
I got a quick question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Trish.
Go ahead.
Just a real quick one. I mean, we go down the rabbit hole on this one too, but I'll make it quick. So some people like myself will have some characters they want to put in a story. Right. And then you really don't know what the story is going to be about. But as you develop the characters, your characters actually write the story for you, so to speak. Yes. Or are you the writer that just sits there and writes the whole plot line out, beginning, middle, and end, resolution, fade to black, all that?
Yeah. So that's a good question. This screenplay, I felt like I needed to have structure, proper story structure. So I note card out my screenplays. It's very much in the vein of, what is his name? Robert Rodriguez. He did like Spy Kids. He did Not From Dusk Till Dawn. He's an amazing director who he's had many podcasts where he's talked about his process. And he literally like had his bag next to him and he pulled out a stack of note cards and he was like, this is a $10 million script right here. And I thought, dude, I literally do that. I note card out and he's right. So you need 40 scenes for a feature, roughly. You know, you need 120 pages, roughly 90 to 120 pages. You need a story structure. And so I used a book that my friend actually recommended called Save the Cat. And it helps you kind of determine your story structure and where things need to happen on what page to kind of keep the flow. So I believe in story structure. I'm not one who's like trying to break the rules to just be different. Right. I believe we have a 3-act structure and a hero's journey for a reason, because it works. And so I did that with this project. I was able to sort of like plug in all of those points. I didn't quite know exactly what was going to happen, but I had a very good foundation. So when I went to write, it was like, here's my list. Okay, that scene done, check. That scene done, check. The characters, though, do reveal themselves while you're writing, and you do surprise yourself. Like, I found myself laughing out loud at my own writing because a character just kind of got under me and, like, started going. So that was something I'd never experienced because I'd never been able to sit that long with characters before.
Right. And you like say, okay, well, this character would never say what I thought they would say or do what I thought they would do. So yeah, the character's going to drive that scene and maybe in a little different direction or something.
I think so. And I also think that because a feature film is so much more like of an, bigger beast than a short film. The hardest part for me was making sure that if I was leaving breadcrumbs, that I was doing it enough, or that if I needed to help the audience understand maybe how a character feels about another character, that I'm slipping that in a conversation maybe with somebody else. So trying to reveal enough without revealing too much throughout the entire screenplay was probably the hardest part of going back and saying, did I establish that part yet? Or does the audience know that, you know, we don't know how he feels about his relationship with his dad because his dad isn't, you know what I mean? Like, did I make that clear? So it's like those little things of, you know,
because that can make or break something. It's like I've seen films where like something comes out of the blue in the third act, and it's like,
go,
where in the heck?
Fuck? Where did that come from? But I was like very careful at, you know, setting it up and leaving these little Easter eggs throughout about the parts that I wanted people to kind of understand. And so once we got to that part, there was a payoff because they at least had a sense of, that makes sense. Of course.
We love Easter eggs. That's one of my favorite things to do when I write is Easter eggs.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. And again, like I said, I've never taken a screenwriting class. I've never taken a film class. I've never taken a workshop. You know, I'm completely self-taught. It's, you know, and it's one of those things where you just learn by doing. And I'm just figuring it out.
Sure.
So now that you finished your screenplay, what's next? Are you in that pause mode now? Are you looking back at it and say, yeah, I did
No,
that?
we're in the go. No, this is the go mode. So I took the summer off. I took about a month off. I went to Iowa for a month, and I did write a little bit, but I really took a lot of time off to just sort of like decompress, knowing that once I finished this thing, I had a hard date by September 5th to be done with version 1, like draft 1 of this project. So I knew once I got the first draft done that was going to be my hard write, that it was going to be, okay, now we are rewriting, we're doing, you know, we're connecting, we're sending this out to people, we're getting feedback, we're buttoning this up, we're putting together a pitch deck, we're reaching out to produce whoever I need to connect with. But I didn't let that bog me down while I was writing. I was like, the universe will figure that part out. I don't need to stress about that right now. I just need to get the thing done. And so, yeah, I think now that it's finished, I have the trip to LA in a couple weeks. So hopefully we come home with some awards. Do have Tallulah Park is still in festival circuit for about another 6 months. Because you'll submit and there's a long waiting period before you find out if you're in these festivals. So that will kind of run its course. And then over the next, 6 months is probably I'll be head down just kind of getting this thing buttoned up and really just trying to get it out there in the world and hopefully get it made. I'd love to get this thing going. If that was my 2026, I would not be sad if I started, pre-production next year. I'd be a happy woman.
That's great.
That's the big, happy, grandiose thing.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I tell you what, it's been a joy having you here on the program, Michelle. If you had anything that, let's say, you haven't been to any workshops and you haven't taken, those kind of things. Couldn't you see yourself in workshops? And if so, young budding filmmakers would come to you and ask you questions about it. How do you see yourself approaching that in the future, if at all?
So I've approached it in the past where I have had people reach out looking for guidance and leadership. But I really, at this point where I'm at now, I really see it as I'm in this growth phase, I need to lean on people that I can grow from, and I just don't have the capacity right now to lend myself out, which I have done a lot of. But I'm really just protecting that energy just because I know moving forward it's going to take so much of me and that I need to kind of expand my network at the same time. But people always know if they send me a DM, I always respond. If people have questions, I'll do my best to kind of guide them in the right way. But I'm really about the doing and the creating right now versus kind of the mentorship and the helping younger artists at this point in my career. Will that shift in the future? I'm sure it will, and I'll have a greater capacity to give my time. But I do realize that time is my greatest resource and it's the most valuable resource, and so I'm usually really careful with it now. Something I had to learn, but I hope that answers your question.
Sure. Jim, you have any closing thoughts for us?
Yeah, now I'm inspired to like take some time to look back and be grateful.
Yeah, you should.
Thanks, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Because I just forget to do that, you know. So yeah, and I appreciate you sharing your story because I know that's tough to do, but I hope that encourages other people to tell their stories because and it takes a lot of strength, and not all people can do it, and maybe it's not advisable for everybody to do it. But if you're one of those people, then sharing your story might help you and other people, right?
Exactly. And to your point, Tracy, about mentorship, I guess I want to add to that slightly. And I realized based on what Jim just said is I realized that my gift is actually in the work and doing the work and allowing the audience to hopefully learn and heal and grow and see themselves maybe in some of those characters. And so that kind of became my why versus let me guide all of these people or maybe help people along the way. I really got to the point very recently as I've sort of laser focused in on like, no, Michelle, your job is to make the work and then let that be the gift. Let people take from that what you have to offer. So that's what I'm focused on.
Way to go.
Very good. Yeah. Way to go. Ending on a positive note. Ending on a positive note.
Absolutely.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us, Michelle. And Jim, we'll see you again on the next turnaround.
All right. Great to have you on, Michelle, and thanks for sharing everything with us.
Thank you guys for listening.
Sure thing.
And that's a wrap on another edition of Wednesday Night Live. Big shout out to our guests and all of you kicking it with us tonight. If you had fun, don't forget to hit the subscribe and follow us on all the socials. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and wherever the hell else everybody is scrolling these days. Want to be a part of the next show? Keep an eye on our socials, our pages, and jump in the chat. Until next Wednesday, be kind, stay weird, and keep showing up. Peace.